Please turn to page 43 for the end of level assessments. In the previous chapter, you learned about the initial assessments for proper placement of students at the start of this program. In this chapter, you will learn about ongoing assessments, which is a critical component of any reading program to ensure that students are successfully mastering skills as well as to identify any gaps in learning. At the end of each color reading level, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, you will find an assessment that you will administer to the students to identify what they have mastered and, if necessary, what skills that need to be addressed and retaught. These skills include letter names, sounds, sight words, CV blends, CVC blends, sentences, and fluency. Before we start these end-of-level assessments, let's get organized. I suggest you put your materials in a file folder. On the cover of my file folder, I glued the end-of-level assessments picture found at the beginning of this chapter. These tools inside the file folder are for the students when you are assessing them on colored construction paper that matches the reading level you are assessing. The last 2 pages of the student's portfolio, you will use these pages to mark the student's answers. Let's look closely at each one of these assessment pages. At the top, I have the red assessment. The red reading level takes 3 weeks. So that means after 3 weeks, you are assessing these students before they move on to the orange level. If they pass that red assessment, then they will go to all the books and read at the orange level. If they do not pass the red level, any of the items that they did not answer correctly are what you will go back and reteach. Instruction at the orange level requires 6 weeks. So look what happened so far. When we first started the program, we're assessing students after 3 weeks. Then when we move to the orange level, we're assessing them after 6 weeks because the orange level takes 6 weeks. Now let's go to the yellow level. There are 2 assessments. That's because instruction at the yellow level requires 12 weeks. Hence, a mid and end of level assessment is given to continue monitoring every 6 weeks. This 6-week marker will alert you if there are any gaps in the student's understanding of skills. Therefore, you can go back and reteach those items before you continue on with the next 6 weeks of teaching at this yellow level. The green level requires 6 weeks of instruction with the assessment at the end. Students that pass the assessment move on to the blue. Now, the blue level requires 8 weeks of instruction. But this is the end of the program. Students have mastered many skills at this point. Therefore, you can go 8 weeks before you have that final assessment. When giving these assessments, what do? You flip to the last 2 pages of the student's reading portfolio, and you will find the teacher scoring sheet for you to mark correct and incorrect responses. Notice on my page is the teacher scoring sheet. Up at the top is the assessment page that the student reads. You write the student's name as well as the date. The date is important because it keeps track of the rate of growth throughout this program in the school year. When the student is reading their assessment sheet, you will mark whether they have correct or incorrect responses. Correct responses are given a check next to the item, while incorrect items would receive an X. So notice if this was incorrect, I would give an X there. You should also write down what the student said so that you can analyze that later. If a student takes more than 3 seconds to read an item, then record the number 3 because that indicates a correct answer, but it was not read with fluency. So no points are awarded when scoring the assessment. Now let's look closely at the different components of these assessments. On pages 44 and 45 are examples of completed ongoing assessments for Kaylee and for Sammy. We will review Kaylee's first because it's at the red level. This level is slightly different than all the other levels. She was asked to read the letter names, the sounds, sight words, CV blends, which are two-letter blends, and then sight word sentences with rebus pictures. And then the last part of this assessment is a book handling and concepts of print and accuracy section. Kaylee was given the IC book and asked these book handling questions. For example, what is the front of the book, the back of the book? And when Kaylee was able to answer or point to show that she understood these book handling concepts, the teacher would put a check, and if not, an X. At this level, when the student reads the book, the teacher will also be looking for concepts of print, left to right directionality, and one-to-one tracking of the words. Notice both of these items were checked. While Kaylee read the book, she had these down. To the right are all the words in this book, printed out for a running record, for the teacher to check each word as the student was reading. At this level, these are only high-frequency words with rebus pictures. Students are given a check for the rebus picture as long as they have a close approximation of what that picture is. The student reads the book and the teacher puts a check above each word that is read correctly or an X above a word that is read incorrectly. At the bottom, you will notice it says overall score, and in this case, we added up all of the sub-skill scores. Kaylee had an 88 out of 91, which means that she passes. Notice our pass score is 86 to 91. She was in that range, so she passed. But I also need to show you that passing at this level means that you need to hit that overall score range, and in this case, be able to pass the CV blends. This sub-skill here is critical, meaning for students to successfully move to the orange level, they need to blend these two-letter combinations. Kaylee was able to do that, so she moved on. But if she was unable to read these blends, then we would need to go back and work on that skill before going to the orange level. This is the only pass or no pass sub-skill at this level. Now we know that Kaylee passed this assessment, but if she did not, then you would go back and reteach skills that were marked with an X or 3, making the reteaching lessons focused and productive. Let's go to Sammy's end of yellow level assessment. The skills tested are letter names, sounds, sight words, CV blends, and CVC words. Also, sentences that consist of high-frequency words and CVC words mixed together, as well as reading a familiar book, and in this case, See the Ram from their yellow reading group level, and scoring it for accuracy. Notice here there's a fluency checklist. You will also assess students for their ability to read the text with fluency, meaning you will check for their pace, phrasing, expression, and punctuation. For the fluency checklist, we are not giving points. What you will do here is you will look at any areas that need improvement. Notice Sammy was having difficulty with phrasing, so you would go to the fluency chapter and find this activity that helps students understand how to phrase, how to group the words together in their sentences so it sounds like they're talking. In this assessment, students need a 95% overall score, as well as passing the sight word section, CVC words, sentences, and the accuracy score for the familiar book, and in this case, See the Ram. Ongoing assessments are critical for student success. These assessments that I just showed you are directly tied to the skills taught during instruction to ensure student success from one color reading level to the next, as well as identifying and reteaching skills to eliminate any gaps in learning. Now we will move to the next chapter for the scope and sequence charts, where you will use those to help you to plan your instruction.